Hello, friends. Today's episode is brought to you by From Within Records. We got some new bands on the label. Warlord demo is out now. It was recorded at an undisclosed location around 2 a.m. in Texas. Please go check out Warlord. Texas hardcore has always been cool, but they got a lot of awesome bands popping right now. Also, another new band on the label, Overlord. I love their hooded guy on the cover. He looks awesome. He's got a lot of swag. But if you're a fan of New York hardcore, please go check out Overlord. 5-song demo out now. Phased Out issue 1. Go support people still doing awesome zines. Go subscribe to the From Within Records podcast, episode 45 out now. If you're not following From Within Records on social media, please go boot up your Spotify and click subscribe. They're always doing awesome stuff. And like I always say, please support From Within Records because they support us. If you're looking for high quality merch for your band or for your business, please hit up my friends over at Good Fortune Printing out of Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. You can follow them on Instagram at Good Fortune Printing. If you want to get in contact with them, please email them contact@goodfortuneprinting.com. You can thank me later. Some updating news before we get into today's guests. LDB is right around the corner. I'm very excited to make my return to Louisville because I love Tyler. I love Ashton. I love Dave. I love Jim Barron. A lot of great people out there. But if I'm being honest, last time I was out there, I was deathly sick. I probably shouldn't have traveled. It was such a weird experience because when I had traveled out there, I thought I'd gotten over the worst of like my sickness. I thought I was on like the road to recovery, but once I got there, it just all came back. And I was literally like dying. I was like bleeding out of my nose, coughing up my lungs. It was not the best thing. I just remember thinking I was going to die in Louisville because it was just so bad. And I remember just laying in bed, just wondering, how am I going to get home? I have to get on an airplane and, make it back. Like I honestly didn't think I was going to make it. It was so bad, but I'm so thankful. Tyler and Ashton just let me exist. But I'm just excited to make my return and just be healthy and be able to like hang out with people and just be social, because like when I was there, I just didn't talk to anybody. I went and sat in a corner. I like filmed most of the show, and then I went and slept in Ashton's truck because it was just terrible. Like I'm telling you, it was really bad, but I'm excited to make my return for LDB 2025. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great to see a lot of friends and just be back in the great city of Louisville, Kentucky. I'm looking forward to that. Also on the K-pop front, NMIXX, one of my most favorite groups ever. They're going to be playing down the street. I love when K-pop comes to Orange County. Because that's all I can turn to now, because I'm seeing so many awesome tours come through California and skip over Orange County. So I'm like, all right, well, if cool hardcore tours aren't going to come to Orange County, I'm happy that these cool K-pop groups are coming to Orange County. So NMIXX is this awesome, super famous group. I saw them on their first tour. They played the Wiltern, which was awesome, and I've seen them at KCON numerous times. They just played Mexico City, which I highly regret like not going. It was such a bummer because seeing all the fan cams, I was just like, dude, I should have just went. I go to Mexico all the time. I was just in Tijuana. Shout out New Lords. But anyways, they're coming to Huntington Beach. They're playing on the beach, which is literally 20 minutes down the road, which is nice because it's so close to home. And to think I can just drive 20 minutes down the road. All of NMIXX is going to be there. They're about to drop their new record, which is shaping up to be awesome. They're killing it. So I'm very excited to have NMIXX down the road. But also I'm still so obsessed and counting down the days until I'm back in Korea. And I'm just hoping for more amazing concerts when I'm there, because last year was insane. So hopefully this year can be even better. But outside of that, still sad. Weekly broke up. I've been working on this weekly video for about a week and a half. It's just something really tough to film, because I never thought I'd be filming a YouTube video about one of my top 3 groups breaking up. It's kind of devastating, if I'm being honest. So hopefully that will come out eventually. But we got a ton of like cool things going on. I have to send a huge shout out to my good friend Nick Barker. Plays drums in Pain of Truth, plays drums in Life's Question. Pain of Truth recently came through on tour. They were on the Counterparts tour, but I was just lucky enough to be able to go to the show and hang out with Nick. And shout out Danny from Dog Pound Media. He's out there hustling, filming great videos. So I was just excited to be able to go just hang out with them. It's nice to see friends from other states locally. They played at the House of Blues in Anaheim, literally a 10-minute drive from my house. So it was very convenient and really fun. And I just hung out with Danny. We went to Tijuana. So to be able to see him again so soon was awesome. And here's a little spoiler alert. He'll be on the podcast next month. So look forward to that. If you're a fan of Dog Pound Media, if you're a fan of the band that he sings for, they got a new record dropping next month. They have a record release show, and yeah, he'll be on the podcast. So breaking news. Go tell all your friends, mark your calendars. I can't tell you exactly which day, but just know he'll be on very soon. But on today's episode, we had to track down our good friend, Cameron Craig, singer of Lead Spirit, Omaha, Nebraska. I was, put on to Lead Spirit when they dropped the demo on From Within Records, and I thought it had a unique sound, and I really enjoyed the music, so I kind of just kept them on my radar. And they were supposed to drop their 7-inch back in 2024. If you've been following them, you'll have remember they dropped the single promoting record coming 2024. It doesn't drop until this year, Valentine's Day 2025. Cameron talks about it on the podcast, but I think it was well worth the wait. The record's awesome. And if you're not familiar with Lead Spirit, please, I highly suggest you hit pause, go boot up your Spotify, Bandcamp, Tidal, Apple Music, YouTube, whatever. Go listen to the demo, go listen to the 7-inch, and then come back here, listen to Cameron and I talk all things Omaha, all things Lead Spirit, his life. It was awesome. This was something that, just reminds me, like, doing this podcast is so fun, because I get to meet and talk to awesome people doing awesome things in hardcore, and just to be able to hear his story and about what they're doing out there in Omaha. It was just awesome. So I'm happy to have been able to have Cameron on the podcast. It was such a treat for me, especially being such a big fan of Lead Spirit. It was so cool, and I cannot wait to see this band live. They're fucking awesome. So please strap in, enjoy this conversation. Without further ado, welcome Cameron Craig to the show.
1, 2, 3.
All right, and we're recording. Welcome to the podcast, Cameron. How's it going?
Yo, doing good.
I appreciate you being willing to reschedule, because I had food poisoning the first time, and I thought about it for like half a day, and I think it was like bad guacamole that I had.
Dang, dude. Like spoiled fucking avocados, or what's up?
I have no idea because if I'm being honest, I have like a pretty strong like stomach, right? I like rarely get sick. And I had this really bad habit of ordering Uber Eats. I'm like constantly battling like trying to not be a shut in versus like I just need to go out and just go be a normal person instead of just, you know, being able to do everything from like my computer and my phone. But
Sure.
I was on this crazy run of like just Uber Eats like all day, and I had gotten this burger with guacamole on it, and I, you know, that's pretty normal and like not that big of a deal, but it was just something about that guacamole that just tasted a little funny. But I was like, ah, maybe it's just like the special recipe from this place. But sure enough, I'm pretty sure that was the culprit that caused me to get food poisoning last weekend.
Dang, son. Well, glad you're on the mend.
Yeah, thank you. But truly appreciate you being down to do the podcast because I'm a huge fan of your band, Lead Spirit.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's really, yeah, really kind to hear.
Okay, and I'm just curious about the scene out in Omaha because I'm being honest, and this is no diss, but like, you know, if someone were to ask me, oh, like who's your favorite Omaha band, like you guys would top the list because I don't know that many bands from your area. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious if you can talk about like the current state of Omaha.
Sure. Yeah. So, I've lived in Omaha 10 years. I lived in Lincoln, Nebraska for like 4 years before that. Grew up in central Nebraska, which is kind of far away. But I would say, yeah, I've been going to shows for a really long time since I was a kid, and it's always been kind of Lincoln or Omaha, and then Omaha even in the last, uh, 4 or 5 years, kind of like post pandemic. I think a lot of cities can say this too. But I think there was like a switching of hands a little bit where it's like a lot of the people that like maybe were booking and running shit and like some of the spaces like were coming to an end before COVID a little bit anyway. And then, um, so then it's like you were just kind of seeing a little bit of a turn where it's like a different generation taking over. And that was very much what happened here. I feel like it's like I was always booking a little bit, but then yeah, one of the like main spots, a few of the main spots like houses, this and that were kind of um doing a lot of it, either like people moved out and then like moved out of town, and so I was already kind of booking, so it just gave me a reason to book a little bit more. So yeah, me and my friend Morgan book, her and I book like most of the like punk and hardcore that come through Omaha right now, at least like on that level, right? Like I'm not doing big package tours and stuff quite yet. It's not really like my forte to fuck around with guarantees, but no diss, just too much pressure. But what I will say is that yeah, what we've got going on is really cool. A lot of people know Bib is from here. Like that's like probably one of the biggest bands from Omaha right now. Um, and yeah, it's kind of a cool like little secret. Like we and last year I think a lot of people were like coming through. Me and my friend Morgan were doing this like we had this like warehouse that we rented that we built a stage in, and we're doing shows out of, kind of because a lot of the spaces in Omaha that we were booking at like art spaces and the very few venues that'll do kind of all ages stuff, we were kind of outgrowing them, because a lot of the art spaces were like pretty small, and so it was like pretty regular that like 100 people were coming out to a lot of the punk and hardcore shows. So like we found this warehouse that we were renting that we called the Blind Spot, and we built like a stage, like set up like a light rig, like had a PA and shit. Like it was cool. And so all last year, every band that came through that we were booking there, um, kind of left being like came not knowing what to expect, and kind of left being like, yo, this was one of our best shows of tour. And I'm not gonna say that's true for everybody, right? But it's like we were creating a space and environment, and the shows that we were booking and the bands we were putting on, it's like it's cool. There's a couple of really cool like newer younger bands here right now, like this like yeah, this generation coming up right now had a band called have a band called Setback that's kind of like um I don't know, just like kind of some heavier still with fast parts and shit, very cool. And they're kind of like taking the reins as one of the like mainstays in Omaha right now. Like they've got like a really cool little following. So I've been booking them for a while, and then those kids are doing a straight edge band right now called Lifelight, that I kind of helped them put out a tape for. That's really cool. And then there's some other stuff too, like this band Contend, and some of our friends playing like all kinds of different stuff. Like there's this Life of Agony worship type band called Glow that's like super sick. That Joey from Lead Spirit plays into, and yeah, I mean, as far as like bands that people have probably heard of that like tour a lot, right now, I don't think there's a lot of bands getting out of Omaha yet. But then even yeah, these kids that play in this band Setback are doing their first tour pretty much the same time that we leave for our March tour. And so they're going to be covering like a lot of Midwest and going back home. And I think people are going to fuck with it. It's like the band's good, you know, and they put on a show. Uh, and these kids, yeah, they know what's up. Like they know good hardcore.
And I think it's a pretty big deal to take on booking shows because, you know, I have experienced booking shows and I always knew that it would be work, but like it's so thankless and it's very
Yeah,
stressful.
truly.
But I, you know, so I commend you for doing that because it's such an important thing, right? Because obviously, like shows are like, you know, like the backbone of a scene, right? If there's no shows and there's like pretty much nothing going on, like there can be bands, but if there's, you know, nowhere for them to play, you know, it's going to be really tough for things to keep going. So for you and Morgan to be able to find this warehouse, I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, we've moved that now. So that warehouse kind of got, yeah, you're always going to have people that fuck with your flow a little bit, right? So there's
Okay.
like some people in town that kind of like, you know, book like a different style of punk and they're a little bit more, I don't know, like just kind of trying to cause problems. So then they were like calling like fire marshals on us and shit and that kind of thing. And it's like, well, it's a warehouse and it has one door. So
Hmm.
it's like, we kind of got spanked on that. But luckily our lease was ending on that one anyway. And so then we kind of picked everything up, moved it. The next spot we moved into is smaller and like a little bit tighter, but we were able to kind of um, like put in all the work to be like, okay, shit, if we like replace the doors and turn them around and put in exit lights and yada yada yada, we can at least like be certified with like a you know occupate or what is it called, certification of occupancy. So then that way like legally people can be there.
Okay.
uh, and most of the stuff that, you know, all the stuff that we do is all ages anyway. So my aim, pretty much all my shows for the last like, you know, as far as I can remember, I kind of aim for shit to be like over by like 10 o'clock anyway, just because it's like, you know, some kid who's like mom is fucking bold enough to let them come to some show. It's like it's sick for it to not be going till midnight. So um yeah, this new spot we call the break room, and it's cool. It's we've had a couple shows there now. um uh but yeah, you know, even just kind of saying on touching on your thing about like booking shows, I don't know that I ever like had a thought like, oh man, I want to book shows, right? I think it's just like the same way with like when you grow up like going to hardcore shows or grow up as a skateboarder or whatever, you're just like, I want to make shit happen. And so especially, you know, you talk about how you don't know a lot of bands from here. A lot of people don't know a lot of bands from here. And so in order to make shit happen, you have to like put in that work. So it's like I don't think I really, you know, making flyers, booking shows. I would never have called myself an artist until probably a couple years ago. I don't think I would have called myself a promoter. Like those are like words that I don't really consider. It's just like I just want shit to happen, right? And then even like holding spaces and like us like renting a warehouse or renting some spot, it's like, do I really want to run a venue? It's like, I don't know, not really. I never really thought about it, but like, do I want places that our scene can like thrive and like people can show up and like kind of know who's going to be there and know what to expect and like bring their friends and feel like, you know, the people running it are people they trust. You know, it's like creating those environments is like really the only thing I think driving me. Yeah, less than like being like, oh, I want to book a show, you know, book a show, or like, I want to like put my name on a lease and be liable for a bunch of shit. It's like, nah, you know, but it's cool, you know. I'm stoked to be in the position to do that, right? Make shit happen for the people here.
100%, because you know it might be hard to, you know, see it in real time, but like, you know, you're probably inspiring a lot of kids and giving kids a, you know, a cool place to, you know, have an outlet to have fun and
Yeah.
be part of a cool community.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing, you know, not to keep ranting on it, but it's like Omaha, um, though there's like a lot of cool stuff from here. And then like historically there's a lot of cool bands here too. It's like, you know, a lot of people that are into like kind of like early like late 90s, early 2000s, like emo and shit. It's like Saddle Creek Records is like from here, so people know like Bright Eyes and stuff like that. But the thing is, like, I feel like a lot of the venues here are like either like when I was growing up, it was either like a house or a bar. And so there wasn't a lot of like, the only all ages spot was a house. So it's like depending on who you are, it's like you can probably go, or like if you're like truly a kid, you might not go because your mom might be like, what is this? Or like, where am I taking you? Or whatever. But that being said, it's like I think my first, some of my first experiences going to shows was like being 14, 15, going to like buddies taking me to hardcore shows that were like 2 hour drives away from our small town. So I think that part of me is still like, it's really like important to me to be able to find all ages spaces, and that's something in Omaha that like, there's a couple really cool spots, and then even more so, I've got an American Legion here that I've got a great relationship with in the last couple years. But I feel like prior to this, it was like if you're not filling if you don't have like 200 to 300 people coming to your show, it's like the kind of venues that are all ages are just like kind of too big or like a little bit too, too like much the wrong vibe. So it's cool to like, yeah, have a spot that like young people can like show up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because all ages shows, it's cool to have everybody be welcome. Because I've been to those shows where it's like 21 and up, and I'm just like, wow, we're all pretty old. Because like I like went to the show and there's like the room was like half empty. I'm like, where is everybody?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, everybody's just young kids.
Yeah.
But have you had any more like trouble since you got the new spot? From the people trying to call and shut you guys down.
Well, kind of at first. So like when we first moved into the new spot, we thought like we kind of had like a very naive understanding of like, oh, one of the main reasons they wouldn't let us have people in the blind spot was because it only had one exit. It's like, well, this place that we're going into has two exits, and so it should be fine, right? Yeah, that wasn't it. So some people, there was a couple fire marshal calls, sadly, so people kind of narking on the spot. But yeah, so then that kind of forced us to be like, okay, like we have to like put in the work to like make this place like, you know, um legal in the sense that people can be there, right? Like we're not selling anything, we're not walking away with money. We're just like, our goal, which hasn't actually happened yet, is you want to just like have enough shows, take just enough that you're paying the rent, right?
Mhm.
Which like I said, we're working on it. But yeah, it's like we spent a bunch of time, bunch of money investing in this little spot of ours to make it qualify, to make it like hit where it's like, okay, some city inspectors got to come and be like, your doors actually open the wrong way. It's like I never would have fucking known that. So then we had to like, I'm very lucky to have like a homie that was a carpenter come through, and it's like at least volunteers labor. So we're just like, I'm like paying for materials, and it's like you find ways to make it happen. But yeah, I ran into a little bit of hiccups kind of first bat. We had like one or two shows there, and then kind of had like a few month hiatus while we're like sorting everything out, because yeah, we were kind of getting called on. So but now they can't, it's like now we got the certificate. So if someone wants to come and be like, what are you doing, I'll just pull out the fucking occupancy thing.
Yeah, hey, I think it's it's whack that people are just being haters and trying to get you guys shut down again. But I think it's cool that you guys were able to go legit and kind of stop that, because
Yeah,
now they can just hate and they can try to make those calls, but they're not going to be able to get you guys shut down for fire marshal stuff again.
for sure. Yeah, Omaha's just small. It's a big city in the scheme of things, but it still acts kind of small. And so people kind of run into some pettiness and shit, but we just try to like rise above it, right? It's like you got to just like persevere, and then like show, kind of teach by example and show people it's like, yo, if we just keep doing it, it's gonna work.
100%. And I want to touch on, you mentioned when you were younger, you had friends driving you to shows that were like 2 hours away. Can you
Yeah,
talk about those early days for you? Like, how did you,
sure.
get into hardcore? How did you even meet these older people that drove?
Man, yeah. So I probably like well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, kind of similar story to a lot of people. So I grew up in central Nebraska, like pretty much damn near the middle of the United States of America, right? It's like I think like we're pretty much the center of the country almost. But the town's called Aurora. It's like 2 hours west of Omaha, right in the middle of the state. And pretty small town, little farming community. But I had like some older kids that were like into skateboarding. That kind of at least set me on the right path when I was young. And yeah, my boy Ben, he was like one of the older dudes that was like skating and like uh got me into some stuff. And then kind of once I was like yeah, once me and then one of my other friends, Justice, he was him and I met kind of through skateboarding and music combined. I think I had like an Alien Workshop Dinosaur Jr. board, and he like saw me across the street because he likes Dinosaur Jr., not because he skated, you know. So it's kind
Mhm.
of cool to have that connection in a small town. But yeah, him and I, did our first band together, and Ben. But yeah, Ben was older. He was like out of high school by the time I was even in high school. But then he like moved back after like like a couple like 2 years of college or something, and then was kind of showing us some stuff. Yeah, it's a funny timeline. I don't totally remember everything, but it's like I think some of my first shows were like before I really knew like hardcore. There was like I just wanted to go to stuff, right? So I remember being like 14, 15, going to these like like weird, like kind of Christian metalcore shows. And like the closest town was called Grand Island, which is like even more west, but it's like 50, 60,000 people, no college, it has like a community college, but it's like an industry town. There's like a meat packing plant and like home, like supply building kind of plant and shit like that, munitions plant, all kinds of shit. Um, but, uh, but but that's like where like if you wanted to skate like a little bit bigger skate park, you'd go to Grand Island. Like the skate shop Silo is from there. So like I grew up going to that shop. And uh but um but yes, I'd go to shows there, and they were kind of goofy. I think even like as a kid I kind of was like, it was exciting because it was this thing I've never heard of, right? And you're like going to like some Circle B, like recreational hall where people are fucking, reaching for the sky, doing like pick up the change and shit. And it's like stuff I've never seen before. And it was cool. It was cool to me in that moment. And then I remember like very shortly after, Ben took me to um like a hardcore show in Lincoln. So Lincoln was like is like an hour away. Lincoln and Omaha are kind of close. They're both on like the very far eastern side of the state. So that's like where most things really happen. Lincoln's a college town. Omaha's definitely a little bit bigger. But anyway, the hardcore scene, it used to be more in Lincoln than Omaha when I was a kid. That's like where most of the bands were playing, and there was like a really cool house doing shows and stuff. Um, but anyway, so I remember him taking to me to some local show. It was just like, you know, some band called Closer Than Blood, that I don't even remember what they sounded like. I think it was kind of like, I don't know, very much like hardcore of the time, where it was like kind of heavy, like borderlining on metalcore, but like kind of tough guy a little bit. I think one of the dudes wore like a bandana with the skull on it, kind of shit over his face while he
Okay.
played guitar. Yeah. Anyway, it was, but that was like more a hardcore show than what I'd been to so far, and like seeing how people moshed at that, and like seeing the energy, and even seeing how people dress and blah blah blah. Right? It's like I was like a kid. I was like super like that. Like rubbed off on me super heavily. I was like, yo, that's it. Like whatever's happening over here is goofy. But that's what I want to do, is like what these people are doing. So then from then on out, we were just trying to go to Lincoln and Omaha, for pretty much everything. It's like me and my boy Justice started a little band, which is funny. It's like it was a youth crew band. We were like super into all the Bridge 9 stuff happening, kind of back in the 2000, late 2000s, early 2010s and shit. Uh, but yeah, we would drive to Lincoln and Omaha for pretty much every show. Once we were in high school, we convinced someone to drive us. His brother was older; he would drive us. So yeah, for the longest time, it's like every week or a couple times a month, we'd be making 1 hour, 2 hour drives all the time. I mean, it just seems crazy to think about it now, right? It's like, um, yeah, but we put in work, man. We were like covering some miles just to go see like random ass show, but seen some really cool ones. It's like, who can say they saw fucking, there was one show that was like two tours lined up, and it was a house show, and it was Coke Bust, and they were on tour with someone else, and maybe Sick. It was like Coke Bucks and Sick Fist, or Sick Fix, I think is what they're called. And it was a tour with I think it was P.S. Eliot and Hopalong. And so like seeing these like P.S. Eliot went on to be like Waxahachie and shit, right? Like super sick. But it's like very different, right? And it's like that's so sick. It's like I don't know.
I love the dedication, especially so early on, right? Yeah, to figure out ways just to get out there. It's really important, because I remember being like that when I was younger, and luckily I had older friends too, which I credit to this day that they were the reason I got to see so much shit back in the day, like when I was younger, because they were more tapped in than I was because they were a little bit older and they got into it before I did. But as soon as I figured it out, they were way more welcoming than they probably should have been. But they were just like super down to just take me along, and like I swear it like changed my life because I was like this young teenager just trying to figure it out, and stumbled into hardcore, and I was just like obsessed from day one, and I still am.
Yeah, sick. That's awesome.
Okay, and it's cool to hear that you were doing bands way back then, and obviously today you're still doing bands. I think that's awesome because I've done a couple bands, in my career in hardcore, and it's just a lot of time, a lot of work, and
sure.
I thought about it, like pretty recently, been in talks of doing stuff, but like when it comes down to it, I was just like, I don't want to do this. It's just so much work. Yeah, and I don't want to name the friend because obviously like it's like unreleased music, but he sent me like a full on like the demo. He's like, all right, he's just like, you should try to figure out some vocals, and I just never did. But also he sent it to me when I was like deathly sick, like back in November. So there's just demo floating out there. Maybe they found another singer by now because I never responded to him. Sorry, but they'll figure it out, or who knows? Maybe I'll figure it out.
Take another look, man. It might be sick. You never know.
Yeah, and what's rare too is it's a straight edge band. There's not a lot of straight edge bands from out here, so like, he's definitely piqued my interest, and he's a really nice guy too. So maybe I should just open it.
Yeah, it could be cool, man. Yeah, dude. Growing up, there was no straight edge. Like I could count on my one hand the straight edge dudes I knew in my scene, pretty much for the whole time. But what's really crazy is right now you're seeing like a straight edge renaissance, dude. Like there are like straight edge kids. There's like straight edge teenagers popping up, which like hasn't happened in generations. I feel like there's like people. There's like so even these kids that I like that are like kind of my boys, man. They're like skate for the shop, like playing like the good bands here, really putting in a lot of work, and they're like early like mid 20s, early 20s. One of them is even like 18, but like they're all like straight edge skateboarders, and I'm just like, that's crazy because like I was like the only straight edge skateboarder for my whole time in like hardcore in Nebraska, kind of. So it's cool to see, like, and then you look around, it's like all these like towns have really cool new straight edge bands coming up, or like you go to a show and there's like kids x'd up wearing like Wide Awake shirts and shit, and you're just like where did you even hear? Like I don't know, like I don't know, like I don't know how kids click into shit, or like how things work, but it's cool. It's like fun to see that's like a popular thing right now, because it hasn't been, right?
Yeah, well, I feel like we're literally like in these like early stages of like the whole scene going through a shift, right? Because like the heavier stuff was so popular for so long, and I've been saying it for a while now, but I feel like the youth crew, the more faster stuff, it's definitely making its comeback finally. And like it's just like this year, it's like we're barely in March, but I feel like there's just so many bands of that style that has popped up that's so good. I'm just like, all right, like we're definitely
Dude,
really getting to this now.
seriously, yeah, it's like so many cool bands right now, and you're right, I think. Yeah, and here I think kids still want to beat the shit out of each other, So it's like even like this band Setback that's like heavy is like, I think they get it. And then the other band that I play drums in called Trucha, it's like heavy, it's like kind of like Biohazard-y, and it's like our guitarist moved away, so we don't really play much anymore. But it's like those shows were crazy, man. People were skinning each other. Those are probably some of the crazier Omaha shows in like recent memory. And shows are still good, but yeah, that was a crazy moment. But I think you're right. I think things are kind of shifting, whether they want it to or not,
Yeah, and like I like all styles of hardcore, so
Yeah.
I'm not like happy or anything that there's a shift, or maybe I am. I don't know, because the faster stuff, that's what I lean towards, right? Like I love that style.
Yep. Yeah, I grew up on Youth Crew, man. So I'm always gonna be impartial. Like I love it all for sure. It's like I always kind of joke that like you can tell someone's like not necessarily age, but like age in hardcore or punk music by like kind of asking them what their favorite Bad Brains record is. Because I feel like when you ask, like if you would have asked me at like 18, I would have said like, Rock for Light or something like fat with like a bunch of fast songs and shit, right? But I feel like as I get older, I'm like, yeah, man, like these groovy ass songs are cool, It's like I'm like, all right, like yeah, fucking Ignition and shit. I don't know. It's like you can kind of tell like people's taste as it changes as you grow, right? I think you can only listen to so much for so long. But yeah, my heart is like for sure with Youth Crew is what I grew up on for sure. Like that. Yeah, I'm not gonna hide that I'm hyped that's like that's there's good bands putting out that kind of music right now. Makes it really easy to be hyped.
100%. And I tell everybody, it's like, like if you stick around long enough, every subgenre will have its moment. So it's like because I've been around to see the youth Crew stuff have their moment. So to be here still and to be here to witness it again, I'm really excited.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't mention earlier how you've been doing band since like your early days. Has that always been important to you to be in a band, or has it just been a coincidence that you've been doing band since the start?
Yeah. Well, it's like it's kind of even similar, similar thing I'm even saying about booking shows and stuff. I just think like there wasn't, yeah, I don't know, man. You'd like wanna starting my first band was sick. Like it was really a cool experience. I didn't grow up playing instruments. I grew up pretty much only skating. Like I wasn't like into sports. I wasn't like my brothers played instruments and stuff, but I was just like super shy. I like didn't really like, you know, anything that required like real like lessons or teamwork or whatever. I feel like when I was young, I didn't have like the I don't know, maybe confidence or whatever to do it. So it's like so skateboarding was like kind of my thing and I could like do that alone. I didn't have to like, you know, I could do it however I wanted, right? A little bit. So it wasn't until uh yeah, one of my best friends to this day, Justice, he was like 1 year younger than me, right? So we probably met when I was in like sixth grade or something, seventh grade maybe. And he already had like a punk band, like he convinced like there was like some kid in town that was into Jimi Hendrix, but he like convinced him to play guitar that sounds like Operation Ivy, like he was always that way. Like he had great, or I shouldn't say has. I mean, he's got incredible taste in music. And so he was always into pretty cool shit. He never had like a, even though we grew up in a similar area, like era, and obviously area, he never did like the metalcore stuff, never did this or that, and like no hate, no diss to any of that. But it's like he was like punk through and through, like growing up on that. So anyway, he had this like punk band, it was like kind of Op Ivy, early Green Day. He was like 13, 14 when he was doing that, and the songs were sick. But I remember like meeting him, or I can't remember exactly how this happened, but there was this like cool youth center in our hometown that would like let us like skate there, and they had like TVs where kids would play like video games together and shit. It was super cool to have for this small town, right? Because there's only so much to do to keep people out of trouble. And so him letting us like skate there and stuff was super sick. And then yeah, my friends, Justice's band played there, and and maybe I saw them somewhere else first, but they would like cover like, they would like cover Operation Ivy or like a Misfits song, or classic like typical kid shit, right? Like really just like fun. Like I think they colored like one time I like sang Linoleum by No Effects for them as a cover, right? Uh but I didn't really know. I don't know. I don't think I really considered being in a band at that time. But then when him and I became like closer, and then I kind of was showing it, like he was showing me like cool punk shit that maybe I hadn't heard at the time, like being like 14, 15. But then I'd be like, yo, check out this Terror record. Or I'd be like, like showing him stuff that like I was getting into back then. So then helping him get into hardcore, then we were like, yeah, like super into like Go It Alone and like that kind of like era of like that fast melodic, like really kind of crazy sounding hardcore. And so then he wanted to do a band like that. And so I didn't know how to play an instrument, so I had to do vocals. And so I did. But then yeah, it was a pretty funny experience. But I think just doing it so young and staying surrounded by people that are active in music at all, I was always doing something. So it's like you'd get, like this band was like a youth crew band we did for like a handful of years as like little kids, and then all of a sudden we were like really into Lifetime, so we kind of did this like pop punky kind of sounding band that he like taught me how to play bass to be able to play bass in. and we'd cover like Kid Dynamite and shit. You know, it's yeah, it's been a cool ride. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't really reflected that in a long time, but I kind of have pretty much always been in a band. I'm not saying they're always doing good or it's even a good band, right? Um, but you know, I don't know. It's just like some people go fucking play squash on the weekends, right? Or whatever. You know, it's like anything that keeps you active and healthy and like around, you know, creative people. I think is all for the better. And so I think that's been my way of doing that. You know, most of my life.
Okay, and that's cool that he taught you how to play bass. Were you able to pick it up easy, or was it a struggle for you to learn?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. It was really rudimentary, man. He had this like Dan Electro bass that was like super light, and he would just like, you know, basically all the first songs I learned were the songs that he wrote for this band. He just like wrote out the tabs, showed me how to strum, like helped me understand like how the fretboard worked and shit. Right? It's like super simple stuff. Um, but he like wanted us to both sing and play and he would play guitar and I play bass. I was like, I don't know if I can sing and play bass, man. I was like, I don't even know how to play this bass, but I'm sure our first show sounded fucking terrible, but it was cool. It was a really cool experience. Um, and yeah, I still play bass occasionally. I never really committed to learning much more than that. You know, drums and bass are kind of like where I sit comfortably. You know, I play a little guitar, you know, uh, but yeah, I don't know. I think of everything as like just like yeah, doing it in the moment and like making it happen. Uh, I'm really bad about like um I don't know, like just doing maybe just doing things for the I feel like there's always gotta be like a purpose a little bit, you know, it's like doing things just for the love of it. I like envy people that are just like creative to be creative, you know. It's like if I don't like have like a goal, like so even case in point, like him being like, hey, here's these songs, we're doing this band. I'm gonna start booking us on shows. It's like I had to learn how to play bass, right? It's like you're like there's like a deadline. There's like, you know, and then again, I learned his songs. I wasn't playing anyone else's songs until like, you know, till much later. And even then I don't know that many songs on guitar, you know. I think it's like always very like I'm very driven by like, yeah, by being kind of goal focused on projects like that. But yeah, I don't know.
And where did you learn to play drums?
Drums was something I always wanted to learn. I didn't really pick them up till I was like probably in my 20s. We were living at this like punk house in Lincoln, and the dudes that moved out that we moved in and took it over from left behind this like shitty little like jazz kit, kind of like it was like a super small kick. I was like playing it sitting on like a milk crate, you know, just like totally haggard shit. But it's like I always wanted to learn, and so I would use that to kind of start playing. But yeah, I didn't really play. I can't remember, you know, I probably wasn't really playing in bands, playing drums until I was like, I don't know, like early mid 20s, probably, you know, I wouldn't even say I necessarily got, you know, good is a loose term, right? I don't know. I'm comfortable, right? Like I know what I'm doing. I've been playing long enough now that I do enjoy it. I do feel comfortable, um, but yeah, I feel like even my first handful of bands were like not it, you know, like you're just still kind of figuring it out, like tempos and shit. Like sometimes I'm like, yeah, you get way too fast, hitting way too hard, you know, you get too carried away and throwing everybody off, so then you all get sloppy. But yeah, I picked up drums kind of late compared to a lot of people. I think, you know, I was like playing it in my 20s, my early 20s.
Hmm. Okay, and you've mentioned skating a couple times. I'm just curious about uh, how that came into your life.
Kind of similar thing. Yeah, there was this like crew of older kids in Aurora that were all skateboarders. It was really cool. It was like, yeah, I don't know, like to think about that existing in a small town, you know, this like little town of like 4,000 people, to have like, I mean, it was like a half a dozen dudes that were just like inseparable friends that were like, you know, um, into like, you know, CKY and into all the like shit of that era. Um, and so they would like build ramps before the little town I grew up in did eventually get a little skate park. Like when I was in like middle school or high school, but or fuck, probably middle school. But yeah, so they were like building ramps and like had him at his house and they like pull him out to skate. And I would just like see that stuff, you know, and I thought it was like super sick. I'm the youngest of four boys. My two oldest brothers kind of skated, but they're uh, yeah, they like weren't always around. They tried to get me into it really young, and I feel like they kind of failed at it, honestly. Like the way they approached it and tried to get me in didn't quite work. I feel like I still had to kind of find it on my own a little bit. But then yeah, one of my older brothers, Brandon, was he was like on the punk side, on the skate, like skated and shit. And he was, he's pretty good. Um, but so he, he kind of like came back around and showed me a few more things, or would like give me like, old skate mags and stuff that he had, and hand me down, again, like young one, right? So I'm getting all the hand me down clothes. So I'm like, they were all like 90s kids, or well, yeah, born in the 80s, like even alive in the 90s, right? So it's like they had like all these old like Toy Machine shirts, or in like fucking World Industry shirts, and like, shit that, that now someone's like grailing, right? But it's like, I'm like, yeah, this tiny little kid wearing these like XL World Industry shirts from my giant older brothers, and trying to pick up skating. But it's cool because that generation above me that were like kicking it, they like got the town to get a skate park. And it wasn't anything special, but dude, I lit like the house I grew up in was like right across the train tracks from this park, and I was there every day. It's like it was, yeah. It was everything.
That's awesome. I could never skate, and I've tried, but I could just never wrap my head around how to ollie. So I was always bummed. I was like, man, if I can't ollie, I definitely can't laser flip. That was like my that was my goal. So
Right.
I was bummed for a long time until Tony Hawk's Pro Skater came out, and then I'm like, oh, cool. This is like, I love video games, so the fact that there's this really cool skateboarding game, like I could get behind this. So playing that game, and because like I knew skateboarding because of like the X Games and playing those Tony Hawk games. I like from my early days, I just didn't really know like the culture. So I remember like, I would like to play as like Chad Muska, because I was like, oh, this guy wears a backpack. He seems kind of cool. And I remember my friends and I were in Hollywood one time, and we saw him skating. Just like I don't know where he was going, but I was like, I could like, my mind was like blown, because like he's just been a video game character to me for like my whole life. And then seeing him in real life, I was like, this is insane. I'm like, he's a real person.
Yeah, he used to come to Omaha kind of a lot. He still kind of comes here sometimes. I don't know if he's got like family here or something. He's got some kind of connection to Nebraska for sure. Weirdly, there's like kind of a lot of Nebraska ties in skateboarding. Like there's been like a lot of really cool people from here that have like worked in the industry, or just like there's been some pros that have come from here for sure. But yeah, I know what you mean though, with like that's like been a video game character to me. Some of those like big names. Yeah, I don't know, the world that we're in, right? Hardcore like teaches you very much that like the person on the stage is also like is no different than you, kind of, right? And so I don't ever have that feeling of like geeking out, like, oh man, like that dude, was in my favorite band, blah blah blah. It's like, I don't know, that doesn't like, I've never like had that really. But I remember like one time, like when I kind of was like first starting to work in the industry a little bit, I like had the fortune to be flown out to Orange for this like Vans used to, I don't know if they still do it actually. I think maybe like once COVID hit, they stopped doing this, but they did like the Vans pool party every year. And so they would have like at the Combi Bowl have this like huge contest and stuff. But I wasn't skating in it. I was like there kind of just like, representing a shop. And so it's like, yeah, me and one of our team riders, that's a good homie of mine, went down there. And I just remember like walking across the street, and we're like going to this like dinner with like our Vans reps and stuff. And then like we're like walking across the street while like Jeff Raleigh like crosses and like waves, but in my head I think I thought he was like waving at me, and I'm just like, yo, like had that moment of like, whoa, like that's the dude, but obviously he's waving at the dudes we were with, like the Vans reps and shit.
Okay.
But I think it's like that dude especially, like, I remember like that's like some of my favorite, like growing up, right? It's like his like 411, I remember seeing that and it changed my life. It's like he's like got a mohawk, he's like breaking glass bottles, skating to Dag Nasty. It's like I feel like of any skateboarder, it's like I kind of have a little bit of a, I don't know, like a that person's not real kind of feeling towards him, because it really is. Like I feel like my whole trajectory of like my interests, punk, skateboarding and hardcore kind of came from like his 411,
It's wild. Yeah. And these days, because of like my YouTube like algorithm, somehow like they fed me a P-Rod vlog. And I'm like, oh, he's actually a really nice guy. So like I watched one video and then I just haven't stopped watching. So he's like the only person I still like consistently like keep up with. It's like him, and then there's this other channel. They're called like the Dern Brothers, and they go to like historical skate spots and kind of break down the history of like who's done like what tricks here, and then sometimes they'll like get like those people to come on and do an interview. It's pretty interesting.
Cool.
Yeah,
I don't know that one.
yeah. I'll send you a link because
Yeah.
because like a lot of the spots they do are like here in Southern California, so it's like, oh, dude, like I've been to all these places before.
Yeah, I try to like I don't listen to a lot of podcasts or watch a lot of stuff like that. I'm just like I try to be good about that stuff. Like, oh, if I'm cleaning, I'll put something on, whatever. But if I'm just like sitting and like focusing on something, it's like hard for me to do that. I think also like, kind of once you're like working in skateboarding, you're kind of like, I don't need to like be listening to that when I go home. It's like it's funny. Like you find this like separation a little bit of yeah, I think I tried getting into a couple of those, like, the Nine Club or the Bunt, or like some of those, like some of these like skateboarding podcasts. And occasionally there'll be one that's cool where it's like fun to listen to. But it's pretty hard for me to like subscribe, like listen to that every day because, you're like doing it all day. It's like when you're a fine dining chef, you clock out and go and eat McDonald's, right? It's like kind of like that sometimes.
And no, I totally get it. Like I hear it from my buddy who like works at Disneyland, and he's like told me for years, he's like, do not work here, you will hate it. And I'm like, how? Like I love Disneyland, I'll never hate it. And he's like, trust me, you'll see the dark side. Do not work here, because he like manages the magic shop that's on Main Street. So
yeah, don't get me wrong, I love skateboarding more, as much today as I probably ever have. But it's also good to have boundaries.
100%. But okay, the main reason I wanted to have you here is because I'm a huge fan of your band, Lead Spirit, right? So can we clear the air here? Because obviously I'd asked you about it beforehand, but
from the horse's mouth, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess no one's heard. Yeah, so it's Lead Spirit. But like I was saying, either one is cool because it gets you to it, right? It's like it's spelled the same no matter how you say it. So if that like, if lead means something to you, it's all types the same, when you look up the record or find a flyer or whatever. But no, I mean, the idea was kind of like, something heavy, symbolically, right? Something like kind of hard to carry sometimes, but ultimately strong, and that's kind of what we put into that. But yeah, a lot of people say it wrong, and that's okay. Like it's it's one of those things, it's like I don't know, man. It's English language is a real fucker,
100%. I am like trying to learn to speak Korean, and I'm just like, all right, this is so challenging. But then I got people telling me like, no, English is the most confusing language ever, and I'm just like, really? But also, like, I grew up, this is like normal to me, so obviously I don't see it the same. But I can understand, like, once you get to like the all the weird words with like silent letters and stuff, yeah, it gets really weird.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, I'm happy that you cleared the air. But can we go to where you're recording the demo? Because I read that No Echo article, and you mentioned you guys were in a barn just to like test out some stuff in the early days.
So yeah, one of my closest childhood friends that's also from this small town. Him and I have been in bands together, off and on over the last 10 plus years probably. And he, I don't know, like 6 years ago or something, he bought I remember every time we like lived together forever, and he's always like, I'm gonna buy a house, like that was always his goal. And so he finally bought a house. He bought this house, and it's kind of in this part of Omaha that's like kind of like a little more outskirty, like a little bit like not like rough, but it's just like people out there have like, they're gonna be riding their like dirt bikes at night and have guns and like, might be doing some shady shit on the side, but like, it's kind of like a mind your own business, but everyone out there is super cool, so the property's sick. I like lived out there with him for like a little bit when he first bought the house, but it was like just far enough kind of out. Like I'm like, I like to be close to all the things that I'm doing. So like living in Omaha, it's like, like the shop is like in the downtown, where all the shows were happening is in like in Midtown, and all that stuff is like pretty close, is like, pretty close together. So like being able to live somewhere where I can like skate over to a show or like not be too, be a couple minute drive from work is like important. So anyway, I didn't really stay there for super long. But he had the property he bought was like a couple acres and has this like this huge lot, and then had kind of what what you call a Quonset building, which is like, for people that don't live in areas that have like farmland and shit. That's like where you're parking like your tractors or shit, right? It's like a really fucking big shed, basically. So nothing crazy, but we yeah, him and I were still in bands together at the time, even while he was living there. And so he had like a little room in his basement that we would like practice at. But then eventually like him and his dad built like they like built a little room in the Quonset building. So that way it was like drywalled and like insulated, because otherwise it's just basically like a big tin building. So that little room is like where we started like housing our gear and like having band practices out there, and it sounded a little better, and then it wasn't like in the house. So it separated some of the noise from the house and shit too, which is cool. And yeah, we've been kind of out there, we were out there for a really long time. And like kind of now using the break room, just because I'm paying rent on it. So it's cool to have some use there, and kind of been moving some gear over there. But yeah, so that property, we would do shows out there, like all kinds of fun stuff. And but yeah, that's we would record. Yeah, we recorded a lot of stuff out there, like the band, this like punk band that we do called Fire Sign. We did our demo out there, and that we still did, like we like mic'd everything, recorded through an interface, super kind of classic way that our friend John helped do. But then yeah, when we were like kind of, that band had like some new songs we wanted to put like record, and we were kind of figuring out how we wanted to record them, or like how we wanted them to be different than like these older songs. And one of our friends here, David Nance, who's like an incredible musician, puts out music under his name, like really cool, just like fuzzed out, like kind of like modern rock, like cool guitar music, really like really powerful stuff. But he records everything. He's got like, him and his friend Jim have like mics, and they have like a 8-track that they record everything on. And that's just like how he's always done it. And he doesn't like record a lot of bands. The last band he probably recorded was like, a long time before us. But anyway, yeah, we kind of tried out a couple things, and then finally I kind of had the idea where I was like, yo, like recording this to like tape is like the move. It's like that just feels more true to what we're trying to do and like how these songs sound. And so yeah, we kind of organized. I hit up my friend Dave. We like brought all these mics out to the barn. He has this like 8-tracks thing that we set up, that we like wired through this like weird random window. I mean, it was like so sick. But it was summer and it was so fucking hot. And normally in the practice room, we have one of those like kind of bigger industrial AC that has like the exhaust like tube and shit. So we would just like pump that out the window usually, and you can cool the space down enough that practice was like pretty chill. But like we're recording, so you can't have all that extra noise. So we like had everything off. So we were just cooking. So yeah, tracking, like it was only like 3 songs for that band for Fire Sign, but then we were like, while all the gear's out here, like yeah, Wyatt, who plays guitar in Lead Spirit, him and I had like just started kind of working on those songs a couple months prior, and like realizing like, oh shit, like these were things that we always have wanted to do, but like these songs are cool, like we should really put it. And we started putting in a lot of work to like finish writing them up and kind of put together a demo. And so we're like, this is perfect timing. We'll just like track out these Lead Spirit songs here after we finish, not the same day. Like we did I did them in different sessions, but yeah, it was brutal, man. It's like the Lead Spirit demo is 6 songs, I think. And so like yeah, playing drums and like fucking up a take and it's like blazing hot, and you're recording the tape and you got to rewind. And I mean, dude, it was a process, man. It was cool. It was a labor of love for sure.
So the whole demo was done with that process.
Yeah, we did the whole demo on tape, man. Every piece. It was really cool. Guitars, vocals I love. So that was like kind of the coolest sounding all of it sounded cool on tape for sure. But like the way we did vocals, we recorded them in the same room, and there was such a natural reverb coming off of the room itself that we didn't do much to them at all. And that's, dude, even actually like with the 7 inch, very much cleaner, right? But even then, we didn't like the vocals on that are just like clean, you know. It's like that's kind of been our thing, for better or worse, I guess, is like however they're recorded, they like kind of just work and like sound right. But yeah, there's like, if you listen to that demo, there's like such a cool, like very organic reverb happening that's truly just bouncing off the walls of that room. It's pretty fun.
I didn't know you did the whole demo there. I thought it was just a couple songs, but that's such a cool story.
Yeah, man. I don't know how many fucking bands can say, you know, they recorded their, you know, yeah, demo in a fucking barn on 8-track. You know, that's like some wild shit. But
Now, did anybody like document any of this going on?
no, I don't know. Maybe a couple photos here and there.
Okay, because I would
To
like
us, that's nothing special. You know, it's like that's just like, you know, we live in Nebraska, right? Like we all like, yeah. I don't know.
yeah, but someone like me, it's like I would love to see what that looks like.
There's photos of the spot out there for sure, because we did a lot of stuff out there.
Mhm.
So you could definitely find that.
Now, you mentioned you know you like to be like goal oriented. Did you have like anything in mind with the band? Like looking forward, or were you just like, all right, like let's do this demo and just kind of see where
Well,
it goes?
yeah, well, kind of, yeah, kind of both. So scenes are small. It's not uncommon that people are in a lot of bands, and any scene that you're in, right? It's like everyone is like playing in 4 bands, right? So I think at the time that we were doing Led Spirit, I was kind of like in like 4 or 5 bands, that would kind of play off and on. But frequent enough, it was kind of a lot going on. But when we finally were like dedicating, like, you know, like I was saying before, it's like, you know, youth crew, like kind of, that's like classic hardcore stuff is like very much my passion anyway. So then when we were finally like bringing this to fruition and like putting in time to like get these songs right, and then, you know, we kind of like decided that I would do vocals for him. So at the time, like I said, we didn't have a full band yet. It was just like me and Wyatt, and then yeah, Nick, who plays in Led Spirit too, he was in Fire Sign with us too. So like so us three are who tracked the demo. And we had ideas, like we had homies that we wanted to play in it, you know. And it worked out, you know. Joey and Nate are in it and helped write for the 7 inch, and they're fucking, couldn't have done it without them. I mean, seriously, such a perfect team. But yeah, when it was like me and Wyatt just like workshopping this demo, you know, it's like I'm like, shit, this is like what we want to do. Like, not to discredit any of the other bands that I was in, or, you know, I'm still in some of them, right? But it's like I was like, this is like what I love, right? So it's not even just doing the vocals; it's like writing it, like playing drums for those songs was like so fun. So like being a part of it in any way, it was like, yeah, felt like I was meant to be there, and it was just like a perfect timing situation where, like, yeah, Wyatt was just honed in and was coming with these riffs that were just like, yeah, like really well structured, thought out, put together stuff. And um yeah, I think like really it was just more like, you know, him and I kind of aligning, realizing like we both share this love for this like this style of hardcore that isn't really, you know, even back then it wasn't like a lot of bands were putting out stuff like that, especially not in our region. You know, no one in the Midwest is like doing that. And Yeah, so then it was just kind of like, yeah, it felt like it was like the right time. It felt very organic. So it was less about like what we can do with it. It was more just about like, it felt like I really wanted to put everything into it. So you just wanted it to be like, yeah, I wanted to put as much into it. You know, after doing drums, it's like hearing how the song sounded. I was like, yeah, I want to put just as much into doing vocals and like writing, you know, meaningful words and stuff that like, you know, to make to really accent like these incredible songs that like that Wyatt, you know, helped conceive. And yeah, I think it's just like the, yeah, team orientation of that, where it's just like I didn't want, yeah, almost like if I fucked up or did them bad, then it's like I'm letting other people down, right? So it's like you got to rise to the occasion and like really go from the gut. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought, you know, we were pretty happy with songs, but yeah, I don't think I thought too much about it as far as like we wanted to play them, we wanted to tour them, we wanted to get them out there. That's really all the goal was, you know.
And 6 songs for a demo, that's like a lot because
I
normally,
think we wrote 8. I think we
oh
actually wrote
wow,
8. We wrote 8, and then 2 actually we even haven't used to this day. We always talked about recording them in that same process just to save for like, you know, putting them on like a comp or doing something with them. And still would like to someday, for sure. But yeah, I think originally there was like 8 songs we were demoing before we chopped it down to 6.
that's crazy. And
Yeah.
uh, any thought to just go straight to like, oh, here's an EP instead of calling it a demo, or were you guys always just down to, just say demo?
Yeah. For the first release,
Yeah.
yeah, it demo. It felt very much like a demo, you know, because it was all, yeah. I mean, there wasn't, yeah, I don't know. It was just the way we tracked it, the you know, we were still figuring shit out. I mean, I think even like me, I had done vocals in a band since I was in high school, you know, at least not a hardcore band. And so it's like, um, it felt like a demo. It felt like we were trying stuff out and like figuring it out. Cause like I said, even by the 7 inch, like having these songs that like, you know, there's like between Wyatt and Joey, like putting these like, you know, really tasteful leads and like kind of melodic parts over them and like being kind of more refined and like you know, figuring out their touch. I think, yeah, that's the difference between like a demo and like a record, you know?
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna go back and listen to the demo and have a greater appreciation for it, just knowing how it was, created. Should be fun. Um,
Yeah. Shout out David Nance, man. That dude, like, and Jim Schroeder for the gear. I mean, those dudes are like pro musicians for sure.
okay, and how did you land with From Within Records?
So yeah, so I never knew Carter. To this day, we've never met. You know, I think I said that in the No Echo interview, but uh, I've always liked what he's putting out. You know, it's like even years back, you know, we're following like Envision and all these bands that were coming out of like Florida and wherever else, that were putting out like really cool, like straight edge music or whatever, which is funny because yeah, Wyatt's like really into that stuff, which is cool. And was like, yeah, kind of, like, I don't know, kind of like the lead on some of that, but um, thinking about like you always want to shoot your shot, right? So it's like I was like, yo, we recorded these songs, like we got art put together. We kind of had the package, like we kind of were like, you know, when you do enough bands, right, you kind of learn like the steps. So you're like, how can I be prepared better next time? So like this time, it just felt like we just again we were very passionate about the music we wrote, happy with like very stoked on how everything turned out sonically, and so we're just like, and then so we're like, let's put that same energy into the art and like make something that seems like it like shows it right. And so then yeah, I just like straight up emailed him, like yeah, didn't know him, didn't have a connection to him, didn't try to play some card or something, you know. It's like it was truly just like, yo, here's our demo, here's, and I, you know, you embed the art so he sees the fucking image first, right? And like that'll either be like seemingly cool or like turn someone away. And he clicked play, man. It was cool. Like that, he was the first dude I sent it to. And we talked about maybe trying to send it to some other places, but then it's like even like mid conversation where I'm like texting the group chat to be like, send it here. I'm like working on some other stuff. Like should I send it to blah blah blah? And then like even mid convo, all of a sudden I got an email. I go to check my email again, and it's like Carter hitting us back right away, being like, "Yeah, I want to put this out." So it was cool, man. And it's been sick working with them since, for sure.
That's awesome to hear. I'm happy he was able to get back to you pretty quick.
It was crazy. It was like immediate, which is like I don't know. Maybe I just hit him at the right time, you know, like on lunch break or some shit. Who knows, man? It was cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because and it's cool that you can tell he takes the time to actually check things out, because
Yeah.
if that would have went unanswered, who knows where you guys would be today.
Who knows? Yeah, nowhere probably. But yeah, I mean him, because yeah, even him putting it out, man, it's like we've met so many amazing people and like made so many great connections. You know, kind of just due to his, yeah, him being the man in the middle. It's been really cool.
And you guys dropped the demo. Comes out on From Within Records. Were you guys like happy that it was out, or can you talk about if you can remember like what the reception was like locally?
Yeah. We had the demo songs done. We sent them off to Carter. It was all pretty much organized right away, right? Because he hit us so quick. Everything was kind of moving very quickly. I think I might be messing up my timeline here a little bit, but I was booking this show for a Restraining Order. They were touring through Omaha, and so I was booking them at the Blind Spot, with that band Gum. And man, I have to look at the flyer. I'm so bad at, you book so many things, you don't remember everything that's on the show. But what I do remember is then we were like, yo, this should be our first show. I was like, I'm booking Restraining Order. That'd be a super fun, like that was like the let's get shit done marker. Cause it's like, if it was, at the time I'm booking it, it's like months away. So that gives us time to like get the band together, make sure everything's working, and then like play a first show. And then it worked out that, yeah, the demo was coming out, and that we were gonna end up even having demos in time for that show, which was super cool. And so it was kind of a cool 1-2 punch. It's like we like announced the show a couple months ahead of time, and people were like, okay, what's this, whatever. And then yeah, a couple weeks, maybe a month before the show, we released the demo on From Within, and I don't know what it did whatever. And yeah, I sold out of them, sent us some. And so then people were able to listen to it, and it was a really cool response. Like I said, there wasn't a lot of people playing that kind of style, especially in our region. I don't think people knew that I could yell into a microphone. I don't know that I was so sure that I could anymore either, and I was like kind of in my head about that shit for sure. But yeah, it was a really cool response, man. It's like I said, I book a lot of the shows here. So there's a lot of kids that kind of interact with me on a regular basis anyway, but they were all hyped, and yeah, it was cool. Yeah, I don't know.
And can you talk about 2024? Because you guys dropped a single, and the record was supposed to come out summer.
Yeah, it was.
Can you talk about why it was delayed?
Sure. Yeah, it was. So it couldn't have been the piece that it is now without that, I guess. I don't know. It's the silver lining, I suppose.
And is there any significance for you guys to release it on Valentine's Day, or was that just another coincidence?
That's a coincidence. It was actually funny. I like, Carter and I had been like talking back and forth about releasing it and ironing out the details for quite some time. And so then we finally like figured out, like ironed out the details, like got in a spot that we're both happy with, like stoked to get everything done. And then he kind of was like, yeah, well, like, just the way the timeline worked out, it's like I don't think he realized it was Valentine's Day. He's like, well, I'll send him to me. I'll start uploading them on this day. We'll announce it this day, and then we'll release it on the 14th. And then in saying that, I'm like, oh yeah, Valentine's Day, And I don't think he knew. I think he's just looking at a calendar. He's like, that's a Friday, But it's kind of cool, It's like these songs are very passionate, Like I think it's kind of fun that it landed on that day for sure. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. So obviously, like the record, it comes out on Valentine's Day, but it drops like midnight Eastern time or whatever. So you here on the West Coast, we can start listening to it at like 9 p.m. Like Valentine's, Valentine's Day, I had like an important trip. I was going to this concert in Arizona, so like Friday I had to wake up, go to work, and then immediately go to the airport to hop on a plane to go to Arizona and then go straight to the show. But I remember the night before, I was like, oh, like I know that their record's coming out. I'll just check it out. But I liked it so much, I couldn't stop listening to it. I was like, this is not good, because I need to go to sleep, because I can't be late to anything, especially like getting to the airport. But I just remember later, and I even made like a post about it. I was like, dude, I should be in bed, but like this record's fucking awesome.
Damn, really appreciate that, man.
Yeah, no, and I was blown away too because like really like the demo, but then obviously like the production was different for the 7 inch. So to hear it from like with new production, I was like, oh, this is crazy. Like and your vocals to hear that you don't really do anything to it. That to me is like pretty crazy because I feel like you have a very unique voice.
Yeah, for better or worse. I know. I think it's like maybe sometimes uh I don't know. I think maybe, and maybe that's just in my head, but it is. I think it's because it's so different. Maybe sometimes it doesn't always click with people, but it's honest, you know. Like I think, I don't know, could have went different ways, and I was just like, this is what feels natural, and um, yeah, uh, yeah. The production thing was funny because it was like that was a conversation we had where we're like, these songs felt bigger, so we wanted to like make them clearer, right? There's like these parts and pieces that we want to have stand out properly and be, better, audible. So that was important to us for sure. But then I didn't really consider that it's like, okay, the demo was like pretty raw. And is people like expecting that, or like wanting that, right? And it's like end of the day, we weren't too concerned with like what like people wanted, right? Like we felt this was like the best way to do it, and yeah, I love how they turned out. That was like, yeah, Andy Nelson, who does Bricktop Studios in Chicago. I mean, he's the fucking goat, man. I mean, that dude knows hardcore and aggressive music and or alternative music even more than like anybody. I mean, he just helps people make masterpieces, and he did, man. I mean, the way he's so smart, like the way we did vocals, the way we did all the instruments. Yeah, it just turned out so cool. So I'm glad people fuck with it. I'm glad people aren't like, yo, this doesn't sound like the demo. Fuck this,
No. Honestly, I think you guys killed it and made like a great statement with that record because when I think of like like the modern day like like youth crew faster stuff and like like you guys are a band that comes to mind these days and it's just so cool to be able to just have like this whole new roster of like new bands that like I'm just like fuck like who should I listen to today.
Sick. Yeah.
Okay, so happy that the record finally came out, but I'm really happy to talk about this tour that you guys are about to embark on in like a couple weeks.
Yep. Yeah, we're going east again. Different route. Yeah, we got put on that fest in Philly, that Rebirth Record Showcase, which is super sick. So we're like, cool. Like now that that's happening, we're gonna like, make it worth our while to get out there, right? Like do a little tour, which lined out perfect because then the record was coming out. I wish we were gonna have physical records for the tour. Sadly, I think they're gonna like show up to Carter to From Within at like late this month probably. So like we'll just miss them, I think. But we'll have them soon, which is cool. But either way, like touring on new music, even if I can't put it in someone's hands, will be cool. It'll be like really fun. We're playing with like so many awesome bands too, and a lot of new cities. I've never been to Atlanta. It's like there's so much cool shit happening there right now. Yeah, it should be really fun for sure.
Yeah, I think it's cool that you guys are a part of that Rebirth Record Showcase because when I look at that lineup, it's just like like just the vibes. I'm just like, wow, that lineup is so sick.
Yeah, I'm hyped. Even our day, it's like I don't, there's no way he would have known putting it together. But I'm just like, yo, these are like all our boys, and it's like we're like the outlier as like the Midwest band on that day, right? But it's like, but even it's like one of my best friends is plays in like No Idols, and it's like all the Wreckage dudes have become such good friends of ours, and it's like to just like show up and just have like so many dudes on that same day that are just our boys. It's gonna feel really fun.
100%. And outside of Atlanta, are there any other new cities that you're excited to play in?
Yeah, I mean, always, man. It's like we're playing. It's just cool to play anywhere new. Like we're playing Peoria, Illinois, which is like not. Yeah, there is a lot of cool stuff happening there right now. There's like a lot of young people that are doing some cool punk stuff there. It's like a smaller Illinois city, so that'll be fun. I'm stoked to play there. We haven't. Yeah, Cleveland will be cool. Yeah, off the top of my head, I'm trying to even think of where we're playing. A lot of it we've played. It's like we're playing.
There's Louisville.
Yeah, I haven't played Louisville. That'll be cool because that band that I've been talking about that's from here, Setback. they got on, that was like their show.
Oh,
And
really?
they booked their tour. It's so funny because like, yeah, they booked their tour before I knew for sure we were going to be booking a tour, right? It's like I didn't know exactly what was happening yet. And then so then once we kind of were like, okay, shit, I got to hit the ground running. Here's the route that makes sense. We got to do it this way because we got to meet up with like Statement of Pride on this day to play like those dates with them in hindsight. And so then the way the route made sense, I'm like looking, I'm like picking days, doing this and that. And then I'm like laughing because I'm like, oh shit. Like once I started actually like doing reach outs to like touch base with people in these cities, to, like try to get something set up, I looked and I was like, whoa, we're gonna like we wanted to play Louisville, and the day that we would need to is the same day that like yeah, our boys have a show. Their first, and that's their first tour ever. Like this is their like one of their first real like for these kids, this is like one of their first like major bands. And so them going on this tour is huge for them because it's like they're literally their first time going on tour in their lives. And so I'm hyped. I'm very stoked that we'll get to be on one of their tour dates. Just to kind of even like see how things are going. I don't know. It'll be cool. Louisville will be fun. I've played there with other bands in the past, but Lead Spirit's never been to Louisville. We've never been to Richmond yet. Yeah, it'll be fun to play those spots for sure.
That's cool. I had no idea that you guys were meeting up with the the local homies. That's cool.
Yeah, it was totally funny, man. Totally serendipitous. I like reached out, because again, I'm the one booking them and like putting them on and kind of helping them like, get their stride. And now they're doing their own thing and like they don't need me, but then it was like hilarious for me to be like, yo, can I hop on your show? Which they were of course hyped to help. I reached out to the promoter and everything, but no, it was pretty funny. It'll be a cool show.
Okay. And do you guys plan to be busy after this tour, or are you guys just gonna keep it chill, keep it local?
We'd like to be busy. So yeah, our Nathan who drums for us, he also sings for Bib, and Wyatt, um, he's been playing bass in Bib for the last like couple years now. So depending on their tour schedule, sometimes it gets a little bit tricky lining stuff up. But with the new record out, like we want to hit the road. We kind of have some plans and some stuff that we want to do, especially once we have the records in our hand. Like it's like sick to be able to like, get them out there, like go on tour again, like sell a couple records on the road. Um, but nothing like written yet. We're kind of open for some stuff. Like definitely, kind of just like seeing what happens. Like I think yeah, we're not quite that kind of band that's like booking like a year ahead or nothing yet. Like we're very much so like kind of quarter to quarter. So we're like thinking about like stuff we want to do in the summer, and kind of getting some general ideas flowing for now. But yeah, nothing on the books. But would definitely want to be like hitting the road again, just like keep kind of getting these songs out there and making our push.
Okay. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what you guys do in the future, and I hope you guys have a great tour. But last thing, I'm just curious about Whistle Test. Went to
Yeah,
the website. There wasn't much going on, so I'm curious. You guys, just under construction or?
under construction. Yeah, well, it's one of these things. Like I said, I kind of am the king of taking big bites and not always being able to chew it all. So I kind of like, because I book all these shows and do all these things, I kind of was like, all right, I want to like put it under a different moniker, right? It's like I don't need like all these like I don't need like random people just following my personal to be able to find a flyer, or even if someone doesn't like me, I don't need they don't want to have to deal with me to like know when the next show is that we're booking or whatever. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this page that's like um you know my boy Brock was living here at the time and he was booking a lot of stuff that I was booking, stuff that Morgan was booking. It gave us a spot to kind of like put all that stuff. And then my idea was like, oh cool, it'll be sick to have a website that I can have like a calendar and this and that. So then people don't have to use social media if they don't want to. Updating that shit's a lot of work, and actually even paying the hosting for something that like doesn't really have a return, started adding up, and I was just like, fuck, man, I definitely let it slip. So it's like, all my homies can attest to like probably once a month, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna like make a new Whistle Test site, or like, find, my literally my fucking boss has a server, that he's willing to let me on. So it's like I just got to make a site, but that takes time. I do a lot of stuff, and sometimes, yeah, I need to be better about like bringing people in. So the whistle test thing is more just like um a creative identity to just like mask all this shit, right? It's like kind of put out some tapes, kind of put out some releases, kind of put, it's kind of a promotional company. I think of it in the way where like, you look back at like Schism and all these different like things back in the day, they kind of just like did everything. Like they would put out a zine, they'd put out a record, they'd put out a fucking they put together shows. I'm not really like calling it anything, because it's just also like, yeah, it's not always doing something, but mainly what it does is like it's like where I post flyers, like for like shows that are coming up and stuff. So
Okay. All right. Well, I like that clarification because I was on the Instagram because the website's under construction. And I was like, what is this? Because I honestly I originally went to go look at some hoodies, but I was like, I don't know where the hoodies are.
yeah.
But
yeah, I know we're bad about that, man. And that's on me, again. Yeah, Lead Spirit. Well, because I would use that whistle test site, we would sell like Lead Spirit merch, or like people would buy like a fire sign tape from there, whatever. And it's cool. But yeah, then like slow time hits, or I'm on tour or something, and then like I'm like, I don't want to pay the $40 or whatever to like keep this site up, it's like, because I'm not doing anything right now, and so I need to just find a more simpler way that's like maybe a little more cost effective to do a site again. Like I had this like big idea. Again, that's what I do, is I'm like, I want it to be this like all in one encompassing functioning site where it can have like blog updates and like a calendar and like a web store all in one. And it's like, well, then you got to pay for it, so yeah, so I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I'll just reamp that one and just stomach it and keep myself busy enough that it pays for itself. But really, we need to have a spot that, yeah, the person that missed us on tour, or the person that like wasn't able to catch the show can, yeah, buy a Lead Spirit, tape or a CD, or yeah, I guess we haven't made CDs. Yeah, hoodies, whatever else,
all right. Well, I hope that this tour that Lead Spirit's going on, this tour that Setback is going on, I hope it helps, kind of shine the light on what you guys are doing out in Omaha, and, and get bands to want to go and play with you guys in your hometown, make that a stop on their future tours.
They are, man. I'm telling you, there's like, it's a friend will play here, the show will pop for them, they'll tell their friend. I mean, you hear it, you see it, it's pretty fun. There was a minute where you just kind of have that little buzz where someone would be like, yo, I can't wait to play Omaha, so it's cool. And it's been cool. I've met a lot of cool people because of that. So yeah, we're in the middle of the country, right? If you're going west, if you're going, if you got to come through here anyway, chances are you're driving through Interstate 80, and you're going to pass right through. So if we can set something up for you, let's do it.
All right. Well, this has been awesome. But before we sign off, is there anything else you would like to say?
Man, I've had so many words. All I do is yap. I've been fucking going off this whole interview. I don't think I got anything else in me.
Well, you're my favorite kind of guest, but okay. I really appreciate your time. So thank you once again. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate your time. We'll be back soon. Goodbye.